Welcome to Thoughtful Planning, the place where real conversation, expert insight, and a touch of humor meet to turn our end-of-life uncertainties into self-assurance. I'm your co-host, Santiago, a history buff and a big kid at heart.
And I'm Honey, your guide through the intricate dance of planning with care and a whole lot of warmth. Every week, we're here to turn those intimidating "are we ready" moments into confident "everything is under control" moments. Today's journey is one you won't want to miss. Hi, welcome to Thoughtful Planning. I'm Honey.
And I'm Santiago. Today we're going to have a conversation, about having a conversation. All right. We've been pondering when and how to have a conversation about the planning that we're undergoing. And the essential question I want everybody to think about today is, when is the right time to have a talk about your end-of-life wishes? I don't know if there's a right answer to this.
I think it just depends on each person's situation.
Yep.
And what's going on.
So right now, it's, what time is it? It's 9 p.m. here in Texas. I went to work. I left the house about 6:30 this morning, got home about 8 o'clock from work, a full day. You've been working all day too.
Yep. I signed off at 7:30-ish. And now we're here so we can share about the importance of talking about the conversation and how to have the conversation. And actually, I started Googling yesterday different ideas. Like, some people I've heard it's hard. Personally, myself, one of my family members, they think that maybe I'm after something if I want to try to help them, but I'm not. So there's the website I want to bring up so you can write it down. It's called The Conversation Project. That's actually not the website, but I'll put that in the show notes. But The Conversation Project, if you Google that, they offer guides to help you with the whole conversation. And it really made me think about some things that I didn't even really think that we need to talk about.
Yeah, well, obviously we've talked to our kids about it. We've redone our wills, we've redone our medical directives, our DNRs. We built a trust. And we explained to the kids, one of you is going to be in charge, mainly because of proximity. The other one, she lives, 2 time zones away. And it's kind of hard for her to get here to do things immediately. Where our son is here with us in the same city, so it would be easier, even though he's the youngest person, our youngest sibling, our child. It would be easy for him to step up and manage our trust. So we're actually going to have our first family conversation about this in a couple weeks. It's only 3 weeks away, Thanksgiving. We're going to fly out to California to visit our daughter, and our son's going to go with, and we're just going to, I don't know when we're going to do it, lunch or dinner. We're just going to sit down and discuss what we have planned.
Right. And so one of the things actually I read is that we need to pick a place where it's not so noisy, it's a bit calm. And also we need to pay attention to our family members if there's any kind of stressors that we're noticing. That's not a good time to talk about it. So this conversation it's a sensitive conversation. It's also very important. And it should be very meaningful so that everyone understands what our wishes are and so that they can follow through with those wishes.
I mean, it was, I guess it was yesterday, we had a discussion with our son, and you'll hear me refer to him as the boy. But we had a discussion with our son about dying in the house. I just asked him, hey, if I were to die in this house, how comfortable would you be? If I wanted to be at home, how comfortable would you be with coming to visit or coming to stay in a house where I'd passed? And he was like, it would creep me out, Dad. But he says, whatever makes you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's really what I don't want to make them uncomfortable, my wife or my kiddos. So it's something that you got to just have that discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think my preferred method would be in the hospital or nursing home or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere other than the home. Even though, quite frankly, if that were to happen, I know that I would not want to stay in this house anyway. Too many memories of you and, all that stuff. That would it really matter? Well, I don't know. I'll be gone, so I really don't care, I guess. I don't know. That's the attitude a lot of people have. I'm going to be gone. I don't care.
But you do care.
I do.
We do care. We care about each other and wanting to make sure that we have everything as prepared as we can. And that's why we're here trying to help others also take this journey with us as we are walking one step at a time. And like we said, we work during the day, and I know a lot of excuses are you get busy, we get overwhelmed, there's a lot to do. But if we can take one step, and so the one step is to have the conversation and talk to your loved ones, the ones that need to know what your final wishes are. And it is a hard conversation.
But there's also multiple ways to do it. We're choosing to sit down with our family and talk to them one-on-one, all four of us together, explaining what we want. Like I know that you want our daughter to have all of your jewelry, but we're going to state that, well, most of it. So we say, hey, look, and then, but look behind me, I guess who's going to get most of this stuff? It's the kid that plays Pokemon and drug me into it, and has gone to nationals and aspires to catch them all. He's going to get most of the stuff that's behind me. So
So for the listeners at home, what's behind you are?
What's behind me? That's collections from when I was a kid, and my son. Actually, funny story, just really quick. My son wanted to get back into playing Pokemon. He wanted to play it right and learn how. Well, we were in Fargo, North Dakota, and there's a mall there, and it's got like this little small basement. And in that basement is a card store. And next to it is a little area where the Pokemon players, Magic players, all those folks play. Well, she went with them one time, and she came back and said, I'm never going again. Those guys creep me out. It's your job. You're going to go. And I was in a job at the time. I was working as a professor of military science at North Dakota State, that I could do that. So I went with the son, and we played. And there's this guy named Josh who became a good friend of ours, and showed me how to play Pokemon. And here we are, how many years later? 14 years later. All those binders behind me, they're full of Pokemon cards. The binders below those are full of Pokemon cards. Back there's Pokemon cards.
They're everywhere.
Mm-hmm. But here in December, my son and I were going to play in the Texas regionals, and that's something we enjoy. And we've grown closer through this card game. And it's something that he enjoys. I know he enjoys. And it's something that my daughter knows he enjoys. So when I leave, they know who's getting what. And then we got my other toys from when I was a kid behind her. I'm just a big kid at heart. She said it earlier.
Yep. Yes. So going back to planning and having a conversation, just making sure that you take the time, make the time, and start thinking about this stuff, and making a plan to have that conversation with your loved ones.
And you can do what we're doing now, having a conversation, videotaping it, and leaving it for your loved ones. If you're not comfortable talking to them because you're going to get emotional, or you think they might get emotional about the subject, say, hey, look, these are my wishes. These are my words. I'm not being manipulated. I'm not being coerced. This is me. And this is something I want to share.
Yep. And I want to say, so in July of 2016, Santiago here, he was diagnosed with throat cancer, and it was stage 4B. And a diagnosis like that means everything happens like so fast. Everything. So there's biopsies, there's surgeries, there's ports that that need to get installed, and there's all kinds of things, and it just happens so fast. And while that's happening so fast, I also have to manage the home. So I have to drive him to the appointments and make sure he gets there, and I would take him to work and pick him up, and all of these things take time, which means you don't have that extra time to talk about what we're talking about right now. So I was working full time. I had my own business at that time, and it was a lot.
I mean, but we had more than that going on. I mean, literally, we had just moved into this home. I mean, literally,
yes.
I was going to my pre-op for my biopsy the day our household goods were being delivered. I left her. I said, "Hey, sorry, this is the first time I've ever left you, and the whole area outside this door was just full of boxes, and it stayed that way for over a year. Because I couldn't even walk up the stairs. I mean, there was so much going on so quick. She had just started her own business, and luckily we had some great bosses that helped us out. But I mean, it was just like bam, 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 all this stuff piling on. It was overwhelming.
Right. So after that took a while. Like, someone is fighting cancer, and then they get to that last chemo radiation, but then it's still like, because all the things that you already had to do are piling up. Like he just mentioned, we had just moved in here, so there was a house full of boxes. So we had to unpack the house, and everything kind of kept getting put on the back burner that was not important. And so all those things kept piling up. I'm saying all of this because right now, we don't know what happens tomorrow. None of us are promised tomorrow or even the next 5 minutes from now. But thinking about that and putting that into perspective, and yes, taking the time to go ahead and start making these decisions while you still are able to. And right now, like I said, we just said we're busy. We were working all day, and now we're recording this podcast, and we need to take the time to finish getting our things together, and that's what we're doing. But that's why we're sharing this with you all, in hopes that you understand that we don't know what's happening the next day. And so the sooner we start preparing, the sooner we get it done, then the sooner we just move on. And then it's just maybe just following up every year on the things that you've already created. So that's the whole point of the conversation, is we don't know what's going to happen.
But you would have thought that 7 years ago, because it's been 7 years since I rang the bells, almost 7 years exactly, we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything until this summer, when, we were getting ready to leave and go on a cruise, and we're like, have we got our wills updated? What happened? So we were literally pushing this stuff through before we got on the boat to leave.
Yep, we signed our trust paperwork, I think,
the day before
we left. The day before we left. Yeah.
And I felt a little rushed myself, but we knew it had to be done in case something happened to us when we weren't here. And, or if something happened to us together, and what happens to the stuff. And we had a conversation with our son. Here's a book. If something happens, here you go. Everything's in here. Do it. Which is probably the wrong answer, but
no, it's better than nothing.
It was better than nothing.
There's a lot actually that needs to get done, as I've started to learn more about this and try to think through what does it look like. So we all have phones, and we all have passwords to all these things now. And what are those? How will they access those? So these are things that we're going to discuss in future episodes down the line. But
yeah, she's had this crazy idea about me paying the bills. I don't know how to do that.
Yes.
It's true.
This is, again, circling back to the essential question that you have, which is,
when is the right time to have a talk about your end of life wishes? When's the right time that your grown children should have that talk with you? We've got, how old is Shelby going to be? 30 years old pretty soon.
29.
Wow. I mean, we're almost going to have a kid that's in her 30s, and we haven't had this conversation with her. What does she want? And that's a hard conversation for a parent to have with a child, I think.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like we would fail her if we didn't have the conversation and honor her wishes, whatever those might be.
Yeah.
So
I would like to know what her wishes are, because I don't want her to, I want her to be honored in the way she would like to be honored.
Yep. Me too.
So I guess to close this thing out, we'll brief you on how it went when we get back off of our Thanksgiving trip to visit family in California. But I think that we've had talks with our kids before. I think that the younger, the better. I wish we would have done it before I got sick, when they were in college, starting off in college. That probably would have been the right time for us. But like you said, better late than never.
Right. And actually, before we started recording the podcast, one thing I mentioned was, one reason why I want to have this podcast is to try to make this somewhat normal, like a conversation with family. I feel like if I grew up in an environment like that, where it was okay to talk about this stuff and it wasn't so scary sometimes, then maybe when our kids turned 18, I might have said, hey, you're 18, here's something you should think about. You have a bank account. You are responsible for that account. If something happens to you and the bills need to get paid, or if you have any bills, who's going to help you with those things? And I want others to know that it's okay to talk about these things. It's not like you're trying to, I feel like for me, it's not that I'm trying to wish something on someone. I just want them to be the most prepared as possible and know what they want, and just have that sense of not being overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I think that, just working where I work, in the area that I work, a lot of people aren't prepared. I see it every day. So we want to help. That's why we're here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you for listening and joining us.
Yeah, our little ramble session, I guess. But take the time. Think about it.
Yes.
Take some notes. She's got much more notes than I have over there. And have a conversation. And it's a hard conversation at times. It could be. But approach it with caring and joy. And try not to make it awkward. It could be.
Well, that's the point. We're trying to not make it awkward.
I know. All right. Hey, thanks for listening to us. And we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
And just like the vibrant hues of a setting sun, we're wrapping up another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Every shared story and insight is a step closer to turning uncertainty into celebrations of preparedness.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, remember that every surprise that comes our way is an opportunity to grow, adapt, and learn. Stay tuned for more stories, expert insight, and of course, a touch of wit in our next episode.
We're not just co-hosts, we're fellow travelers on this journey. For more information on additional resources, which will help you take the next step in planning, look for the link in the show notes for our membership. Join us next time for another episode of Thoughtful Planning. Until then, keep living, laughing, and loving every moment.